Hey guys, so here you are versus Saga Black. Before anyone asks, no, I don't have any of the Yawgmoth's Will or anything like that. I don't have the big Yawgmoth cards. I just don't. You know, they were rares, they were high demand, and I wasn't really known for playing black back in the day either. So hey, you know what? Between those factors, I just didn't get any. Those rare opportunities when I had to get one, I would pass up because I wasn't interested in it back in the day. I wasn't really a tournament player at the time either. In fact, I'm trying to think. When was the last time I played? The last time I played Sanctioned Constructed was at a PTQ up in Boston, where the format was extended shortly after the extended format was announced. Yeah. And before they had their band list completely sorted out as well. I mean, the initial band list had Juggernaut on it, and it's like, really? I mean, looking back on it, you see Juggernaut as banned, and it's like, I mean, yeah, Juggernaut's got a big power, but it's a 4-drop. It's an artifact creature, which means it's vulnerable to every form of artifact removal and almost every form of creature removal. You know, so that, and of course, add to this the fact that, hey, you know what, Juggernaut also ended up getting reprinted in the original Mirrodin block. And it's like, really, guys? Really? Juggernaut? Yeah. Unfortunately, a few months later, they decided to ban Lotus Petal and Hypnotic Spectre and unban Juggernaut. You know, unbanning Juggernaut I can understand. Banning Lotus Petal I could understand. Banning Hypnotic Spectre I really couldn't. I mean, yeah, he's mean, but on the other hand, I guess that this was still back in the day when no one had the fortitude, let's say, to ban Dark Ritual, because that was the real problem in black. So yeah, thankfully I managed to segue back into black. Yeah, bet you didn't think I was going to be able to pull that off, did you? Hollow Dogs. 4 colors and a black. He's a 3/3. When he attacks, he gets +2/+0 till end of turn. He's been referenced on a couple of different cards with similar abilities. It's Kid Science. It's fun stuff. It's not a bad card. I don't think it's great, but it's not bad. What else we got here? Oh, hey, look at that. Diabolic Servitude. I was mentioning the enchantments that'll bring themselves back from the graveyard. Diabolic Servitude is the black one. And it's an Animate Dead effect. Western Paladin. There was also an Eastern Paladin. Northern Paladin was, I believe, an Alpha. Southern Paladin, I want to say, was originally in Mirage or Visions. Not 100% certain on that. But then, you know, in Urza Saga we had the Eastern and Western Paladins. And the 4 Cardinal Direction Paladins would eventually end up having minor themes, being a minor theme in the artwork, as well as all of the 4 of them reprinted in 7th edition, which I thought was really spiffy. I mean, it was nice. It really was. Some people didn't like it, and honestly, I have to say it's just a matter of taste. I mean, it's hard to get some kind of a cohesive theme going in core sets, because it's a core set. It's not really supposed to have a big cohesive theme. You know, it's supposed to be a bunch of bread and butter cards. You know, your workhorse cards, your Lightning Bolt, or now that Lightning Bolt's going out, your Shock, your Incinerate, your Giant Growth. I understand Giant Growth's not coming back in the new set. They're coming up with a slightly beefed up version of it that costs more. Blah. But, you know, it's like, No, your core sets are your bread and butter. It's like, your Goblin King, your Lord of Atlantis, Harrow, stuff like that. Well, actually, they don't use Harrow in core set. Last I checked, they use things like Rampant Growth instead. Harrow's better. It took me a long time to learn that Harrow was better too. I got too hung up on the whole point of sacrificing a land and not realizing, hey, you're getting 2 lands coming into play untapped, and you choose which ones. They're basic lands, yeah, but you choose. So it's like, you just sacrifice one of the lands you tapped for it, and you're effectively paying 3 to get 2 back, and color fixing. So, yeah, you're ahead of the curve. But whatever, right? Expunge. It's basically a, for 2 colorless and a black, it's basically a terror with cycling. For the casting cost of a Dark Banishing. Unworthy Dead. It's a Drudge Skeleton. It's a bloody effing Drudge Skeleton. But, there's Drudge Skeleton in A, B, U, R, 4, 5, probably in 6th, 7th, and 8th as well. I don't know, at some point they stopped reprinting Drudge Skeleton. Which is funny, though, because you've got a variation of Drudge Skeleton in Mirage. I can't remember what it was called off the top of my head, but he's in there. Plus, you got Drudge Skeleton, you got Unworthy Dead in this set. You also have somewhere in here, I can't remember where exactly. Was it? I'm pretty sure it's in here somewhere. Let me double check real quick. Phyrexian Monitor, I believe it was. No, he must be in one of the... I'm guessing he's in one of the later parts of the block. Yeah, there he is. He's in the last part of that. Phyrexian Monitor, who's also a skeleton who regenerates, but he's a 2/2 for 4 as opposed to a 1/1 for 2. But yeah, I mean, I'm willing to bet there have been enough. So there's at least 2 functional reprints of Drudge Skeletons. Same tribe, same power toughness, same casting cost. I think Skeleton is overall an underrepresented tribe in the game as well. But oh well. What can you do? Duress, I'm pretty sure this is the first printing for Duress. I don't recall it being an Ice Age or Mirage. Or anything else. If I'm wrong on this, someone please correct me. For that matter, I could go look it up right now if I was really feeling ambitious. But the last time I put down the camera to look something up, ended up being like a few minutes of dead space in the video, and I don't want to do that again. I'm sure you don't want that again either. But oh well. I mentioned before the returns to your hand animate dead effect of the creature enchantment. We also in here put that aside for a second. Have Victimize and Exhume. Victimize is 2 colors and a black for sorcery. You choose 2 creature cards in your grave. You choose 2 target creature cards in your graveyard, and then sacrifice a creature. And then you put the 2 creatures that you targeted from your graveyard into play tapped. That's pretty saucy. So you're spending a card from your hand and sacrificing a creature to get 2 dudes from your graveyard back into play. Yeah, they're back into play tapped. They can't block this turn, but whatever. Who cares? Not mentioning the fact you're probably either sacrificing a token creature or something that has a leaves play ability, triggered ability, or you have something else in play that has a when creatures leave play or enter graveyard triggered ability. I mean, heavens forbid. I mean, if you want to victimize, well, you've got a Grave Pact on the board, colorless and triple black. It's an enchantment. Whenever a creature goes to your graveyard from play, your opponents have to sacrifice a creature. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if you victimize, well, you've got a Grave Pact in play. You're basically like you're losing a card from hand, losing a creature, possibly it's a token creature, mind you, and getting 2 dudes from your graveyard back into play. Yeah. Hello, reanimation. Exhume, colorless and black. Each player chooses a creature from his or her graveyard, put that creature into play. What's really easy to do, I mean, especially since this is Urza's, this was only 2 blocks after Mirage, and Weatherlight was still pretty fresh at the time. You could easily enough, first turn, Dark Ritual, Buried Alive from Weatherlight, 2 colorless and black, search your library for 3 creatures, put them in your graveyard. Yeah, shuffle. But yeah, it's like, yeah, I'll take first turn, Swamp, Dark Ritual, Buried Alive, go. Second turn, Exhume. You don't have a creature in your graveyard yet, I don't care. Don't care. Phyrexian Ghoul, he's a zombie, 2 colorless and a black for 2/2. Sacrifice a creature, give him +2/+2 till end of turn. Yeah, you'd see that same casting cost, power toughness, and special ability on a vampire a few years later, where it's probably a little bit more appropriate. But hey, such is life, you know? So, I can't remember which of the Urza sets the various Yawgmoth spells were in, so mention that right now. They were horrifyingly, disgustingly broken, overpowered. Was Yawgmoth's Will and Yawgmoth's Bargain. One lets you, one was basically a higher casting cost version of Necropotence from Ice Age. Necropotence was black, 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 skip your draw phase, pay 1 life to put a card, put the top card of your, basically you pay 1 life, exile the top card of your deck, of your library. At the end of turn, take all cards exiled this way and put them in your hand. I believe it was Yawgmoth's Will, I believe, was like a 6 mana version of this, except instead of the crazy wonkiness of putting the card, exiling the cards, then bringing them to your hand, it was just pay 1 life, draw a card. Ooh, that was just mean. I mean, yeah, I mean, it was a stupid good ability for 3. I mean, surely it's going to be less broken at 6 when you get the draws immediately. No, it's not. It's so much not broken that way. Then, of course, I believe it was Yawgmoth's Bargain was the one that lets you play cards from your graveyard as if they were in your hand until the end of the turn. Or I believe it was until end of turn. I don't think it was an enchantment. I'm trying to remember. It was a long time ago. Or if I may be so bold as to quote the character of Cup in the Transformers the movie, 1986 version. I'm trying to remember. There were an awful lot of casualties that day. Yeah. Isn't that an awesome quote that just, like, you know, fills you with confidence? They're closing on us. Yep, like the Shrybats of Dromadon. How'd you beat them? I'm trying to remember. There were an awful lot of casualties that day. Doesn't that just fill you with confidence, folks? Just fills it. It's so like if someone comes up against the Yawg, you know, an old school Yawg deck, and they're playing against it, and they're like, they turn to like something like me who's been playing for ages and ages, and like, how do you beat that? I'm trying to remember. There were so many people that got trashed by those. You know, that's when you just sit there, it's like, you're bagging me, really? Really? But, yeah. It's just nasty and evil and vile and fun and happy, etc., etc., etc. So, there's Black, and there's his saga. Evil as always. Honestly, I kind of like the fact that they've tried to get away from the whole Black is evil business in the later sets. To a certain degree, it's unavoidable, because part of the philosophy of Black is power at any cost. But at the very least, I think, you know, they could give us some sympathetic villains in Black. Sort of like, you know, in the original Star Wars saga, you know, Vader wasn't a sympathetic character until the Empire, until Return of the Jedi. And then you had the Star Wars prequels, which, you know, destroyed most people having sympathy for Vader as well. Because think Jake Lloyd was a horrible child actor. I don't know if the problem was Lucas's directing or if it was the actor's performance. I mean, sort of like, I've seen some of the actors in the Star Wars prequels in other movies where they actually did halfway decent to good jobs, whereas in the Star Wars prequels their performances were horrible. On the other hand, I've seen, for example, Hayden Christensen, who played Anakin in episodes 2 and 3. Oh dear gods, he turned in a horrible performance in Jumper. That was, they made that movie just to capitalize on, him being in Star Wars. They figured, ooh, he'll sell the movie with his name. I'm willing to bet more people saw that movie because Morgan Freeman was in it. Oh well, hey, how did I get into Star Wars? There was a Star Wars CCG, by the way, a couple of them over the years. There was one put out by, I want to say it was Decipher, and there was another one that was released right around the time of the prequels called Young Jedi or something crazy like that. I don't recall. Plus there was a Star Wars miniatures game put out by Wizard of the Coast, if I recall correctly. Very similar to the D&D miniatures game, which wasn't really a bad game either, mind you. But, yeah, was what it was. Anything else? Oh, and then of course there was also, many years ago, there was the West End Games Star Wars RPG. I believe it was D6 based, that is 6-sided die based, like your classic, your Monopoly and Yahtzee and all that size dice, blah 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 blah. And then, a few years back, Wizards of the Coast released the Star Wars D20 role-playing game, which wasn't bad. It used variation on 3rd edition D&D mechanics. And then they introduced, a few years afterwards, to try and revitalize things, they introduced the Star Wars Saga Edition, D20 based role-playing game, and a lot of people thought that they were trying to playtest elements that you'd see in 4th edition, which ended up being right. Honestly, before the 4th edition announcement, I didn't expect it at that time. I didn't think they were going to roll out 4th edition quite that soon. But that's a story for another day. So I've been talking all about various RPGs rather than Magic for the most part here. Is what it is, I guess. I mean, since I don't own the ridiculous power cards, all I talked about is a couple of cards here and there that ended up being really good bread and butter things, and a couple of cards that ended up being references in later stuff, some functional reprints, the fact that graveyard manipulation, reanimation was pretty big in Black at the time. So anyways, yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up before I babble on about, other RPG related stuff, so forth, whatnot. Throw the video up on YouTube, etc., etc. It's late afternoon, early evening now. Have a good night, fellas. We'll catch you tomorrow. Be safe.